In section 11.1, circumference and arc length, we're going to start to look at some vocabulary specific to circles. So starting off with the vocabulary term circumference. The circumference of the circle is basically the distance around the circle. So in this diagram here would be our circumference, that distance around. There's two ways to calculate circumference of a circle. We can work on pi times diameter. Diameter is the distance all the way across the circle through the center. Or we can calculate circumference using 2 pi r. So 2 times pi times the radius. Here's the radius, the distance from the center of the circle to the outside. So we will first work on calculating circumference problems in 4 ways. In our first example, we need to find the circumference of the circle that has a radius of 9 centimeters. So if we know radius, we should be using the formula circumference equals 2 pi r. So we're trying to find circumference, so we'll leave that as our variable. We have 2 pi, and then the radius is going to be 9 centimeters. And all we have to do is multiply the 2 and the 9. So our circumference would be 18 pi, and then we're going to use the same units as our radius, so we would have centimeters. Next, in our next problem, we need to find the radius of a circle whose circumference is 26 meters. So radius, circumference, that means we're going to be using the formula circumference equals 2 pi r. This time we know the circumference to be 26 meters, and we're going to set that equal to 2 pi, and then we don't know the radius, so that's going to be our variable. To solve for the radius, we're going to divide by 2 pi. And what we can do is simplify our fraction. So we're going to simplify 26 over 2. 26 over 2 is 13. So I'm going to start to write my answer. Radius is equal to 26 over 2 is 13, but the pi was in the denominator. So we're going to leave the pi in the denominator, and then we're going to keep the same units as our circumference, meters. In our next example, we need to find the circumference of a circle, but this time we have the diameter is 5 inches, and we're going to round our answer to the nearest hundredth. So for this example, since we know the diameter, we're going to use that formula circumference equals pi d, where d is diameter. We're finding circumference, so we have c equals pi, and then the diameter of the circle is 5. And then all we can do, basically to put this in good mathematical writing, is write this as 5 pi. And then for our units, we're going to have inches. Now, let's say we wanted to calculate that. We just have to pull out our calculators. So on our calculators, we would just type 5 pi, and then to the nearest hundredth, that's 2 decimal places, so we get about 15.71. So our circumference is approximately equal to 15.71 inches. So this answer right here is exact, and then the second answer is the approximate answer. Okay, one more example here. We need to find the diameter of a circle, and this circle has a circumference of 17 feet. So since we need to find the diameter, we're going to use circumference equals pi d. This time we know the circumference to be 17, so we'll set 17 equal to pi times diameter. To solve for diameter, we're going to divide by pi. So our exact answer would be diameter equals 17 over pi, and then our units would be feet. But we want to round that to the nearest hundredth, So if we put that into a calculator, 17 divided by pi, 17 divided by pi gets us about 5.41. So that would be 5.41 feet approximately. So just one more time, 17 over pi, this would be the exact answer, and then 5.41, that would be the approximate answer. Next, you guys are going to work on the You Try It's. They are very similar to the 4 problems we just did, and then you can watch the next video for the explanations.